Previously, with Division 4 almost completely wiped out, Makima ordered Denji and Power to be trained by Kishibe, the strongest devil hunter, to prepare for war. Kishibe kills them repeatedly every day to ensure they're ready for what's to come, but they aren't the only ones getting stronger. Aki, with his contract to the Fox Devil uncertain, is on his way to make a contract with the future devil, taking half of one man's remaining life and another sight, smell, and taste to make a contract. What could the future devil possibly have in store for Aki? Special Division 4 were simultaneously ambushed with gunfire. Makima and her assistant, as well as Hirokazu and Kobeni, were all presumably killed on the spot. Denji, as well as Power, Aki, and Himino were also ambushed by a man with similar powers to Denji, but with katanas instead of chainsaws. Unfortunately, he targeted Denji first, rendering him unconscious for the fight. Aki has to resort to his dangerous sword, the Cursed Devil, to deal with his opponent, taking years off his life every time he uses it. After killing Katana Man, he is revived by a new unknown character, for now called Hoodie Girl, and Katana Man scolds himself for underestimating Aki before blinking and cutting him open. With no other options left, Himino tells her Ghost Devil that she will give all of herself to her, if the Ghost Devil does the same. She almost saved Aki, sacrificing her life in the process, but the Hoodie Girl calls upon the Snake Devil, immediately devouring the Ghost Devil. Himino is killed, and Aki watches in awe as once again his team member has died near him. Now, all seems lost. Aki can barely move, Himino has been killed, Power has run away, and Denji is unconscious. On top of that, everyone else in Special Division 4 has already been killed. However, in her very last moments, Himino uses the remaining power of the Ghost Devil to move towards Denji, and pulls the cord on his chest for his chainsaws. Denji regains consciousness, and despite not understanding why they're being targeted, he's simply stoked to see that there are bad guys ready to be killed, since nobody will complain when he murderizes them. Katana Man states he will put him down a second time, and immediately prepares for round 2. Hoodie Girl calls in on the radio, revealing herself to be Sawatari, and states that they're in combat with Chainsaw Man and immediately calls for backup. Aki is still paralyzed in shock on his knees, and while inspecting the missing fingernail on her hand from summoning the Snake Devil, Sawatari is interrupted by fighting chainsaws and katanas. The two devil men continue to battle. The power of Katana Man's swings are truly frightening, and he's far from slow also. Denji is blown straight into a wall. Two companions of Katana Man asked him if they should shoot Denji, to which he responds by saying to aim for his arms or heart, despite Hoodie Girl saying not to damage his heart. This doesn't faze Denji as he wipes them both out before they can even fire. Katana Man blocks his strikes, but suddenly Denji notices he's acquired a cut to his chest despite having no recollection of being hit. Moaning about the pain, he is then shot by this Beanie Boy, who is then hit with a people's elbow by yours truly. Denji takes Beanie Boy hostage, and asks Katana Man what he'll do now with one of his companions in danger. Suddenly, Katana Man disappears, while channeling his inner Sasuke. With no remorse he decides to slash through the both of them, cutting both Denji and the hostage in half. Katana Man grabs Denji, telling his subordinate to hurry up and get the car. Katana Man exclaims that despite being devil hunters, they're still only human, and will always lose against guns while we're shown a short montage of all the devil hunters laying dead. On the train with Makima's lifeless body, we're shown panicking civilians while the assassins converse. They're ordered to go into the next train and blend in with the public since their mission was successful. But all the assassins are extremely shocked by what happens next. They look up, and standing before them is none other than Makima. They take aim with their gun, but the camera cuts away to the colleagues waiting for Makima at the station. They're informed by someone that all the members of Special Division 4, including Makima who they were waiting for, have all been simultaneously killed. One member can't believe it, while the other is simply agitated that they waited here all this time for nothing. As the train pulls up and the doors open, we're seeing civilians running for their life in complete panic. Makima nonchalantly walks off the train as if nothing happens, ordering them to clean up the dead bodies on the train and informing them that luncheon has been cancelled. Covered in blood, she's asked by her colleagues if she was wounded, but Makima responds that the blood isn't hers, and that she was never hit by the gunfire. After, we're cut to the dead bodies she's referring to, where all the assassins have experienced large fatal wounds to their bodies. Upon leaving the station, the colleagues ask if they should depart to Tokyo to assist with the ambushes, but Makima simply states they would never make it there in time. It's then that Makima asks her two colleagues, Kurose and Tendo, for two strange requests. First, she needs 30 convicts serving life sentences in jail. And second, they need to rent out a nearby shrine for her, one with the highest altitude. Oh, and a change from these bloody clothes, of course. Back to Denji, the assassins are complaining about how heavy his body is, despite being cut in half. I guess that chainsaw in his head isn't exactly very light. Katana Man also notes he won't be able to transform again for a while due to this battle being tougher than he anticipated. Demanding assistance, one says to the other to grab the other side of his body to help carry him, but he simply asks what he's supposed to hold on to considering he has no legs to grab. However, he then freezes up and says that something suddenly feels weird. Hoodie Girl asks what he means, but is interrupted by a devastating attack that grants this man the powers of the Pancake Devil, and flattens him into the ground. Flabbergasted, Sawatari calls in on the radio and demands confirmation that Makima was killed. Before he can fully respond, the Pancake Devil pays him a visit also, decimating him just like the man before. Sawatari's assumption was right. It's Makima. She's atop the highest shrine in her vicinity with 30 convicts and her team, all blindfolded. It's stated that Makima's powers are so great, not even her own colleagues are allowed to know exactly which devil she's contracted with. Makima goes to each convict, making them repeat a certain name. Each time they do so, whichever name spoken is immediately flattened, and the convict's life is presumably taken by the devil she works with. Even the assassins who have a hostage stand no chance, as they are killed and the hostage remains completely fine, besides from the new red dye on their clothing. Suddenly the attacks cease, and Makima states she's done all she can do for now and will now return back to Tokyo. Terrified, Sawatari and Katana Man desperately tried to get Denji into the van. Despite killing most of the aggressors, there's still nobody there to help Denji. As if that wasn't bad enough, the reinforcements that Hoodie Girl called for earlier finally arrive, but Hoodie Girl and Katana Man are very confused to see that the supposed reinforcements is actually just Kobeni with her favorite weapon in hand. It's revealed that while being ambushed, Hirokazu was shot first, and in his last moments, he heroically threw himself in front of the second bullet that was heading towards Kobeni, saving her life with his death. She presumably killed the hired gun and took his radio. Sawatari calls upon the snake devil again, but is gobsmacked at Kobeni's reaction as she jumps on top of the snake and runs over it, making Katana Man question if she is a human or a monkey. While trying to shoot her, Kobeni charges and slashes off his hand. Then, while midair, she catches the airborne firearm and immediately puts two right in the back of Katana Man. She dodges the return fire, and using Denji's big metal head she deflects the bullets shot at her by Sawatari, who then tells Katana Man to die in the car before throwing him in there and making a break for it. With Denji's half-body safely laying on her lap, she apologizes for trying to kill him before simultaneously laughing and crying at the fact she keeps saying that. She then reminisces on Hirokazu sacrificing himself for her, again laughing and crying before stating that this job is going to drive her crazy, and how she can't take it anymore. She decides that next time she sees Himino, she's going to quit. Which means I guess she won't be quitting anytime soon. We're cut to a scene with Makima exclaiming relief that Madoka is still alive. She asks how many people survived the ambush, to which he responds aside from the non-humans, pretty much no one. Makima confirms that the gun devil is almost certainly involved. I wonder what gave that away. Madoka explains that due to the losses, the higher-ups have decided to merge Special Divisions 1, 2, and 3 with 4, and immediately place them under Makima's demand. He then passes on an envelope. Makima asks what it is, and Madoka explains it's his resignation. Terrified at the current events, he's realized it's either quit or be killed and chooses the former. He then asks Makima how much of this she anticipated was going to happen, to which she responds she can't discuss such matters with a civilian, before thanking him for his service. The new recruits, Kurose and Tendo, ensure Makima is aware that they're not joining her division permanently, and will be returning to Kyoto as soon as they can. Makima is upset to hear this, since there's so many good restaurants in Tokyo that they haven't experienced yet. The episode kicks off with a news report recapping the events of yesterday's battles. Not only did the public safety have to deal with devils, but also humans. Power interrupts this broadcast by turning the TV off, and Aki awakes to Denji eating his apples while reading manga. Power suddenly gets a craving for apples, scaring the citizens outside. Denji says Power doesn't deserve any apples due to her fleeing from yesterday's danger, while Aki painfully asks how many from Division 4 ended up surviving. Denji breaks the news, and says only Kobeni and Four Eyes, the latter of which ended up quitting. Makima wants to speak with Denji and Power, so they announce they're leaving, with Power saying she was only here for the apples anyway. Denji notices Aki's emptiness, and gracefully leaves him one apple from the entire basket. Aki grabs the cursed devil, and asks how many years he has left. Shockingly, we learn he only has 2 remaining. He ignores the apple and reaches straight for a cigarette, experiencing PTSD of Himino when trying to light it. He drops the cigarette, and while reaching for it a second time ends up crushing it while breaking out into tears. Denji, who came back for his manga book which he left on the floor, awkwardly listens from outside. Denji begins wondering whether or not he's a good person, since Himino's death hasn't really affected him despite the fact that she's the first person who wanted to be his friend. He only really felt sad when Pachita died. If Power died, he wouldn't care, and the same goes for Aki. Even with Makima, he would be sad for several days, but eventually be back to his usual self. As long as he has a bath, food, and a place to sleep, he's content with life. He wonders if he lost more than just his heart when Pachita merged with him. Eventually, he concludes such things are pointless to think about since they only make you sad, and heads off to meet Makima. The 2 new coaches for Division 4 appear, and after realizing Aki was crying they simply ask if he's going to eat that apple sitting there. Makima takes Power and Denji to a cemetery. Himino's master is mourning, and silences Makima before she can introduce them. He asks the 3 questions. How did you feel about your comrades dying? Do you want revenge? Who do you side with, humans or devils? The 2 answer similarly. They weren't that affected by the deaths. Revenge is boring and tiresome, and Denji is on whichever side treats him better while Power sides with whoever's winning. Kishibe claims they got full points, and loves them for it. He dismisses Makima, and immediately hugs both Power and Denji, explaining he loves booze, women, and killing devils, before squeezing them both so hard he breaks their necks. Paralyzed on the ground, he explains that this would be dire for humans, but with a little blood they can be all better again. Kishibe explains that the gun devil is after Denji, and the fact that Denji keeps getting his ass beat is a problem. He's never trained devils before, and came to the realization that any devil that could beat him in combat would be one of the strongest in the world. So from this point forward, he will continue to kill them until they learn how to win. Ready for round 2, Power throws Denji a weapon, and as soon as he swings it, he receives 3 stabs to the chest and 1 straight through his brain. Power then has her throat cut. Kishibe simply exclaims when he was little, he always wanted stronger toys that he couldn't break. And with his help, these 2 will become very powerful indeed. Back to the hospital, Aki tries to summon the Fox Devil, but the helper explains that due to the last fight they had, the Fox Devil won't respond since Aki put something vile in its mouth. The 2 ask Aki why he doesn't just give it up and live out what years he has left, but Aki adamantly explains that the devils which killed his family are still loose, so why would he ever think about quitting? They tell Aki that to improve in combat, he will need to make new contracts with new devils, which will include sacrifices. As they're leaving, they see another girl entering the room. Aki looks up and is shocked by the visitor. Kishibe has finished beating Power and Denji, and the sun has set. They've been getting killed repeatedly all evening. Denji's brain still hasn't healed, so Power uses her special healing technique to fix that. He asks how many times he died, to which Power replies over 20, but she lost count since she was half dead for most of it too. As if that wasn't bad enough, the two also have to walk all the way home. Denji wants to enjoy life, and this man will suck all the fun out of it. They concoct a plan to kill the man next time they meet, and eagerly prepare for the next battle. Kishibe arrives at their home the next day. Power and Denji are ready for his presence, and have both put glasses on to confirm their intelligence. Without hesitation, Power throws a blood spear through the door and the man manages to dodge it regardless. However, Power had stationed bottles of blood upstairs and uses them to rain down spears on him, but again he seems to have an easy time countering them. Denji is waiting for the opportunity, and jumps down to finish him. But before he even has the chance, he's roundhouse kicked and falls to the ground. Kishibe praises the two of them, saying this was their best attempt yet. They only lost for 2 reasons. Power uses too much blood rendering her useless, and Denji was too slow to see his attack coming. Kishibe is feeling generous though. Due to their good attempts, he calls it a day already. He wanders off for some drinks. Denji informs Power that they're done for the day, but instead receives a knife straight into the head. Beasts shouldn't trust anything their hunters say, Kishibe adds. Kurose and Tendo take Aki to form a contract with a stronger devil, warning him that the next time he goes to work he'll be in grave danger. Curious, Kurose asks Aki who the girl that visited him was. It was Himino's sister, and she wrote letters to her family about how she wanted to quit the public safety and take Aki with her, but Aki wasn't interested. Aki is sent into a room to form a contract with the future devil, a devil that has previously taken half of a human's remaining lifespan, and another human's eyes, smell, and taste. Who knows what it will take from Aki? Aki confronts the future devil. An eye stares at him before introducing itself with a surprisingly chirpy attitude, simply repeating, "The future rules!" The future devil tries to get Aki to join him in his chance, but Aki bluntly says he's here to make a contract. Future devil scolds Aki for his attitude, before asking to see his future by putting Aki's head in his stomach. Aki puts the head in the future devil's hole, and after a bit of squirming, the future devil laughs and says he's going to live in Aki's right eye. That's the only condition to use the future devil's power. The reason being, Aki will die in such an awesome way that the future devil wants to be there to see it. The devil tries to explain what will happen to Aki, but Aki interrupts him saying he couldn't care less about what happens to him after he achieves his goal of killing his enemies, and tells the devil to get inside him. Denji and Power are getting pounded again. However, this time Kishibe gives them full points in their training, and says they don't have to train every day anymore. Only once a week. The two try to celebrate but are too exhausted. Kishibe then explains that tomorrow they will use some real combat instead. They're going after Hoodie Girl and Katana Man, and will introduce the brand new Division 4, which has all the divisions merged together, which will show us new fiends and devils that fight for the humans. However, if they fail tomorrow, the whole division will be terminated. Denji tells Kishibe that if it comes to that, Denji will mercifully let Kishibe live for making him stronger, since he can finally have a date with Makima. Speaking of Makima, Kishibe wants to have a chat with her. She thanks Kishibe for teaching Denji and Power, but Kishibe says he's sick of them already. Anytime the dogs he trains die, he finds himself drinking more. Blaming his old age, he thinks he's growing attached to them. Kishibe gets to the point. The public safety aren't dumb. He assumes Makima knew about the ambush that was planned the other day and did nothing to stop it. He explains that he doesn't care what shady antics Makima gets up to, as long as she's still on the human side. If not, Kishibe will be forced to kill her. Makima explains that if Division 4 is successful, they will be granted more freedom in their unit, which will lead to even more humans being saved from devils. Kishibe bluntly calls her a liar, which Makima simply smiles in response. Hoodie Girl and her organization are held up in a building, debating whether or not to run. Katana Man states that his granddad would never have ran, and next time he will rip Denji's heart out himself. Hoodie Girl explains that her men better not get bitten, as downstairs they have an army of zombies that will deal with any of the intruders that find their way in. Tendo and Kurose are driving Aki somewhere before returning back to Kyoto for good. Kurose asks Aki if he seriously believes he can kill the gun devil, the devil who's killed millions of people already. Kurose admits that they joined public safety because of the gun devil too, but would never dream of actually hunting it. Eventually, Kurose admits that simply looking at Aki pisses him off, saying his main character syndrome is so cringe that he gets goosebumps. Aki tells him to keep his gibberish to himself, and that they can both laugh at Aki's dead body if he loses. The result of Aki's goal isn't important. He simply couldn't live without pursuing it. Aki steps out, and thanks them both for their help, but is suddenly stopped by Kurose one more time. He chucks him a can, and says despite Aki being an annoying guy, he's still rooting for him nonetheless. We're cut to a Yakuza leader conversing with someone in a meeting. It's Makima, who thanks him for his cooperation. The Yakuza boss apologizes for the actions of their younger guys, referring to Hoodie Girl and Katana Man, and says it's nothing to do with him. The girl is making many members form a contract with the gun devil outside of his command. The gun devil promises the Yakuza members guns and ammunition, strangely in return for money. Apparently, even devils need money for something. Makima asks for the names of everyone making contract with the gun devil, and the boss is happy to comply until Makima says even the names of those not under his command. He responds he could never snitch on other gangs, as internal gang wars in Japan would allow foreign mafias to invade the country, and the Russian and Chinese mafias are much worse than the Yakuza. Makima insists it's for the safety of the public. The Yakuza boss implies that Makima doesn't understand, getting a laugh from his men. Makima gives the boss a present to urge him to cooperate, but he says this is beyond what money can buy. Makima informs him that the bag isn't full of money. It's a collection of things that belong to people in the room. All of the men's family, friends, and lovers have their eyeballs currently residing in that bag. Calling her bluff, he opens the bag to find the truth in her words. Luckily, there's someone under Makima's command that can put them back, assuming the boss cooperates. One man naively grabs Makima, making the last mistake of his life. Makima explains that she's not interested in his justifications for the Yakuza's evil, as they simply need to be controlled. The siege of Katana Man and his gang is about to commence. Kobeni is as stressed as always, whereas Denji and Power can't wait to get inside and start slaughtering. Aki asks Kishibe the plan, and he responds there isn't one. Special Division 4 goes in and completes the operation. Kishibe informs the police and devil hunters that they simply need to seal the exits and make sure no one from Division 4 try to escape. If they do, kill them immediately. Kishibe begins to explain the characteristics of each member of Division 4 to ensure they're ready to fight them just in case. First of all, Shark Fiend. He can swim in walls and floors, and can momentarily transform into his devil form. Second, the Violence Fiend, so powerful that they force him to wear a poison mask to numb his power. Under no circumstances should he ever be allowed to take this mask off. Next, the Spider Devil, who usually takes a human form but can just as easily take her devil form and kill mercilessly. The Angel Devil, who can suck life out of people simply by touching them. While Division 4 make easy work of these zombies, Angel Devil asks for a handkerchief to wipe the blood off her shoe, and Aki passes it to her unfazed at the possibility of losing some of his life. Blocking the bullets of a man who shoots at them, she complains about the pain before Aki finishes the man off. Aki tells Power and Denji to let the fiends handle the zombie, while they go for Hoodie Girl and Katana Man. While they don't know where they are, they'll split up and search for them. Stepping onto the 4th floor, Aki somehow manages to dodge a literal bullet and uppercuts this man into heaven. He's then ambushed, before all men suffer nosebleeds and collapse to the ground. Makima seems to be very pleased with herself. Aki climbs some stairs, before confronting Hoodie Girl, and before even being allowed to speak, she summons her snake devil and commands it to spit something out. It turns out to be the ghost devil that it swallowed from Himino, and is now under her control. She also suffers a nosebleed like the others, but doesn't seem to fall. Aki battles the ghost devil, and even Hoodie Girl compliments his improvement in combat. Future Devil reminds Aki that he can peek into the future, but Aki continues to battle as normal. Eventually, Aki is overwhelmed and the ghost devil is ordered to strangle Aki to death. Seemingly out of options, Aki is choked and begins to lose consciousness, before our episode suddenly ends. We jump straight back into the fight between Aki and the ghost devil, with Aki losing consciousness. He has a flashback of Himino telling him to smoke, and after reluctantly agreeing, he calls Himino a terrible teacher for making a minor smoke. After learning Aki is a minor, she immediately demands for the cigarette back, but tells him that one day she will return the cigarette back to him when he's allowed to smoke it. Suddenly, we return to the fight, and Aki, who was just being choked to death, is released from the ghost devil's grasp. It stretches out its hand with a clenched fist, and upon opening it, Aki sees the cigarette Himino promised him, with 2 words written down the side of it. Easy revenge. It's now Aki remembers that the ghost devil is blind, and as long as you have no fear for it to smell, it can't sense your presence. Remembering this, he steps over the ghost devil, readies his blade, and decapitates it. Sartari tries to call for the snake devil, but Aki randomly says not to kill her, as we see that Kobeni has snuck up on Sartari with a blade to her throat. Aki approaches, and asks Kobeni why she decided to stay in the public safety. She simply responds, because we get our bonuses soon. Power and Denji are climbing floors in the elevator, where Power has kept a zombie arm and suddenly gets a bit peckish. While Denji is disgusted, Power says meat is meat, be it animal or human. When the elevator arrives at its floor, the doors open and introduces the 2 passengers to a horde of zombies. Fortunately, the zombies haven't noticed the elevator yet, and Denji says to remain quiet while they pass. "It's me, Power!" Power ignorantly shouts. She's decided she's not going to run from any battles, and begins going ham on the zombies. She calls out to Denji, telling him to watch her strength in action, but Denji allows her to get on with it as he continues with his elevator ride. Power spots a big one. She leaps into the air and makes quick work of it, completely blinded to the fact that Denji has already left. Bored and yawning, Denji has nearly made it to the desired floor. He readies his chainsaw, to be greeted by 3 men. 2 with guns, and 1 with hidden katanas. Surprisingly, Katana Man says to calm down, as he wants a chat first, saying they might even surrender depending on Denji's answers. He wants to know if Denji doesn't feel any remorse about killing his grandfather and his friends. Denji says obviously not, they turned into zombies anyway, which Katana Man calls him a dirty liar for. Either way, zombies were once human too, so he asks Denji if he feels no guilt for killing them, and Denji bluntly replies not at all. Katana Man says that his heart was replaced with the Katana Devil, but even he would feel terrible if he accidentally killed a zombie. He claims Denji has lost his human heart too, and if he has any human conscience left, he should let himself be killed. Hell no, Denji replies. Fine then, Katana Man says, I'll have to kill you. Come and get me then, Baka, Denji replies, and a fight breaks out. Immediately crashing out of the top of the building, Katana Man is relatively shocked Denji has guarded him, before kicking him into a building and following up with a slam which Denji dodges. Katana Man continues swinging at Denji, with each hit knocking him back slightly, before a big hit sends Denji flying, tripping him on the ledge of the building. Katana Man uses this to sweet chin music Denji through a sign, over a building, and on top of a train. Katana Man meets him there, praising his improvement in the speed of his moves, and asks what he's fighting for. Denji says to protect his current life, and to get acknowledgement from Makima by defeating Katana Man. This makes the latter laugh, as he knows Denji can't defeat him, provoking a charge from Denji. The two continue their battle, and while it mostly seems even, just like before, every hit sends Denji back slightly. Katana Man swats Chainsaw Devil away, before he loses sight of his opponent. Suddenly, from behind, Katana Man slams down on him and sends him through the train roof. The train makes an emergency brake, putting Denji off balance and getting him hit into the roof and into the next carriage. Chainsaw Devil lays next to a civilian, as Katana Man takes his special stance. Blasting past them both, Denji's arm comes flying off as the civilian flees. He takes his stance again, and Denji says, "Can't you try something new?" as he blasts past and takes his other arm off too. "It's over," Katana Man says. With no arms, Chainsaw Devil can't fight, and before killing him, Katana asks for an apology for killing his grandpa. "Who said it's over?" Denji says. "You can't see the chainsaw on my head?" Before charging in again. Katana scolds his ignorance, as he blasts past him a third time, finally breaking the chainsaw on his head. He again demands for an apology from Denji, but Denji simply responds, "Thanks for aiming for my head, Baka," before Katana Man is suddenly split down the middle. Denji remembers his training from Kishibe, and tells Katana Man the prey should never trust something their hunter tells them, before revealing that Denji is capable of growing chainsaws from his leg too, which allowed him to acquire victory. Katana Man falls to the floor in 2 pieces. Regaining consciousness, he's naked and tied to a train, while Denji walks over and says they truly are the same. Their body goes back to normal after reverting back to human form. Katana Man shouts he'll kill Denji, and Denji says losers are always the loudest. Denji says there's one thing bothering him. Katana killed Himino-senpai, so now there's one less pretty girl in the world, but Katana will get to live his life in prison. Denji reaches his conclusion. He'll hold a tournament. Aki arrives, wondering about this tournament. Denji explains that the tournament will involve kicking Katana Man in the balls as hard as they can, and whoever gets him to scream the loudest wins. Aki squats in disbelief at Denji's unprofessionalism. They're supposed to capture the man, not torture him for their own amusement. Such a thing wouldn't make Himino happy. Saying that, Aki pulls out the cigarette she gave him, and asks Denji what the prize would be for winning the tournament. Denji says, his balls of course, and the two approach him, ready to play some football. We're shown a short montage of the crooks from the building being taken away in cuffs. Power seems to have survived her battle with the zombies, as well as Angel Devil too. While he may have survived too, I think Katana Man would rather he had been killed, as opposed to this alternative where Denji and Aki really go to town on his manhood. Makima is summarizing the events to her higher-up. Saotari, the hoodie girl, made a contract with the gun devil and supplied guns to the Yakuza, who in exchange wanted Denji's heart. The man asks why Saotari wanted Chainsaw Devil's heart, and Makima explains that before they could get that information out of her, her own snake devil forcefully prevented her from being captured, unaware of whether that was her choice or not. However, they seized 1.4 kilos of gun devil flesh, and with the 5 kilos they already have, the pile of flesh has finally started returning to the gun devil itself. Just before we conclude, Denji is having the same dream he always has but never remembers. He hears Pachita's voice coming from a door, and tells him to come out. But Pachita replies, "No matter what you do, Denji, never open this door. Ever." That wraps up Season 1. What an awesome show. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, be sure to subscribe. It may take a while, but I can't wait for the second season. I'll see all you kings in the next one.